Hey guys, Dan here with Hardly Brief Tutorials. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can build a simple leveling system. So this is going to be a level controller is what we're going to call it. And this can be attached to your player, any type of game object. It can be used for an RPG, platformer, really whatever you want to have levels, ranks, whatever you want to call it. This controller should be able to be used and extended to fit your needs. In this video, I'm going to do a quick run through of what I have set up on the screen. The scene here, we're going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to just walk through the code instead of typing it out. Let me know what you think of that format. If you hate it, let me know down in the comments below. If you like it, let me know. And if you learned something from this video, go ahead and leave a like and hit the subscribe button so you can be notified for the next video. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm in a Unity 2D project. This works for 3D as well. I just want to use 2D for the scene that I set up here. On screen now you see a 1, which represents the player level, a 0, and then a bar and 100, which represents the experience points needed to level up in our current experience points. And then we have level up and add XP. When I click add XP, it's going to add 100 experience points, and our character should level up, which it does. We've reached level 2. We see I have a notification that goes away. And then again, if I hit level up the button, we leveled level 3. This updates appropriately, and our experience points update. Now if I hit XP, you can see we're adding 100, 200, 300. We level up again, level 4. So that's pretty much how simple this script is. I have a object in the scene called player, which I've attached a script called tutorial, which I'm going to walk through. You would attach, like if you have a player stats or some sort of player script, that you would attach the level controller information in there. But in this case, I don't. I just have this tutorial script. So let's go ahead and open that up in a Visual Code. I'm going to walk through this code. And then we're going to jump into the level controller and explain how that works and actually how we can level our character up. So in tutorial, I have two using statements that are important, Unity Engine and Unity Engine.ui. This HardlyBrief.leveling is not needed if you're going to write out these scripts. The level controller and the experience algorithm, that's just for what I have in my personal library. But here we have a tutorial script inheriting from auto behavior. I have 3 public variables that are type text, and that's to receive the player text, the player XP text, and notification message. And then a public game object, which is a notification object, which is the on-screen that flashes says player leveled up. This is just to reference UI stuff to show you that it's working properly. What's important and what you'll need in like your player script or something is a private level controller, which this is the script that we're going to create, the class. I've called it LC. And then in my start method, right, this is a mono behavior. In my start method, I'm just saying LC is equal to a new level controller. We're creating a brand new one. Here, I'm subscribing to 2 events that we're going to create. One's called on level up, and the other is called on experience change. I am adding 2 methods so when these events fire, down below I define what happens. I have 2 public methods, one called level up, the other one called add XP. This is calling lc.levelup. So this is just telling, hey, level controller, level yourself up. Add XP is saying add experience points. I'm going to add 100 experience points to my level controller. And lastly, these private methods down here, these are what is called when our event fires. So when the on a level up event fires, we're going to pass in an old value, the old level, and then the new level. We're going to send a debug statement out. We're going to update our text, which is the UI text, and this is what enables the notification icon. The same thing with our on XP. We're going to put a debug statement out here, and we're going to update our text. If you're not aware of this syntax with the $, this is just allowing me to use brackets, curly brackets, and then actually calling a variable. So in this case, the level controller.current experience points variable. That's what this syntax allows me to do. But let's go ahead and jump into the level controller because that's the meat of this system. So in level controller, we're going to go over a bunch of things, but the first thing is we have a public class called level controller, and the first few things we have are the events that we're going to fire when our player levels up. So the first thing, excuse my chair, we have a event called on level up. This has a delegate type called level up event, which returns a void, but it takes 2 integers, a old level and a new level. So if I go back to tutorial, you see on level up, I'm subscribing to it. I'm adding this on level up method, which has a return type void and 2 integers, old level and new level, which is defined here. Then I have another event called onExperiencePointsChange. So when we add experience points, this event will fire every time. And that's just using a system.action, which is just a void method, return type void method with 0 arguments. Next up, we have a bunch of public variables. So we have a public int current level. We have a maximum level. We have the current experience points that our object has, the goal experience points that we need to reach to level up, and then the needed experience points, which is the difference between current and goal. I have these set with a get and then a protected set. The reason why I use protected a lot throughout this, and honestly this should probably be protected as well, so let's go ahead and change that. But the reason why I have protected everywhere is because if you create another class called player level controller that inherits level controller, you want access to these variables. You want to be able to set them in that new class you create, which is, again, why I'm using protected. But let's go down to our level controller. So our level controller, this is our constructor for this class. So when we say new level controller, we're going to be calling this method first, and it's going to set our current level equal to 1. We're going to set our maximum level to -1. And the reason why I do this is so that we can actually have infinite levels. So really, we can level up as high as an integer can let you go. So if, depending on your system, 32-bit or 64-bit, this value, that's where your theoretical max is. It's not really infinite, but it's pretty high. We also have current experience points. We're setting it to 0. We have this variable here called experience algorithm, and I'm setting it equal to a new linear algorithm. And I'll explain this in a bit, but this is how we handle the different type of formulas you want that dictate your level curve, right? So sometimes in a game you might level up linearly, in this case, or you might level up exponentially. And I created a method to allow you guys to create whatever algorithm you want. And then we have a method called set experience points, which we're going to check out in just a moment. So this is our constructor. So generally, when you call the level controller, you're going to want to add experience points to the level controller. And the way you do that is this public virtual method here. It's a public virtual void add experience points. It takes an integer amount of experience points. And the first thing we do is we have a method, which I'll describe in a bit, but it's called isMaxLevel. And all this does is it checks to see if we've reached our maximum level or not, and returns true or false. So if we've reached our maximum level, which means it's returned true, then we don't want to do any of this. We don't want to waste the computation time, right? We just want to exit this method and be done. We don't want to do anything else. If we haven't reached our maximum level, then we want to increase our current experience points, so plus equals, by the amount that we've passed in. And then we need to do a check. We need to check, hey, did our player level up? Which this is what this method is. If we did, so if this returns true, then we want to hit level up. If it doesn't return true, meaning we haven't reached our goal experience points, then we're going to call the onExperiencePointsChange event. We're going to fire that event. But first, before we do that, we want to say if onExperiencePointsChange is not null, meaning someone is listening for this event, then we'll call it. If no one cares about whether or not our points have changed, then we're not going to call it. We're not going to waste the time. But let's go ahead and take a look at did player level up, because that is the first check within the sequence. So we're going to say if our player, we want to do a check real quick. So we have a protected virtual return type bool, and it's called did player up. It's protected, meaning if you have a class that inherits this, it can override it because it's set to virtual. So you could create a protected override bool and kind of define a different way to check if our player's leveled up. But in this case, we're going to do a one-liner if statement. So we're going to say current experience points. If current experience points is greater than or equal to our goal experience points, then we're going to return true. Otherwise, we'll return false. Again, that's just checking up. Now, if did player level up is true, then we're going to need to level up our player, which is here. This is a public virtual void level up, meaning that we can call the level up function or method outside this class. We can use this method outside this class, excuse me. But again, the first thing we're going to do is check to see if we've reached our max level. If we've reached our max level, then we're going to return. We don't need to do any of this method down, any of these functions down below. If not, we're going to add one to our current level. We're then going to set our current experience points. We're going to set our goal, our new goal that we need to achieve using the algorithm. And then again, we're going to check to see, do we have any subscribers or listeners to our On Level Up event? If we do, then we want to go ahead and call it. In this case, I'm going to pass in my current level -1, which is our old level, and then our current level, which is what we just leveled up to. Now, let's take a look at these two methods here, set current experience points and set goal experience points. The first one is set current experience points. So when we level up, we need to make sure what our experience points will be starting point. You can just set it equal to 0 if you want. But basically, if you have a situation where you have an overflow, if your goal is 100 and you got 150, we want to have those 50 points to start with. So what we do here is we just say current experience points is equal to current experience points minus goal experience points. And this honestly could just be current experience points minus equals goal experience points, if you want a little more simple syntax. And then we do a check. So we do a check to see if current experience points is less than 0. So there's a case when you just click level up where current experience points is equal to 0 and it's minus, and the goal is set to 300. In that case, you have a negative value, and we need to catch that. And in this case, we do, and then we just say, okay, just set our current experience points to 0. Lastly, we want to look at the set goal experience points. So this method, again, is a protected virtual void, so you can override it and create your own way of doing this. But in this case, what we're doing is we're saying goal experience points is equal to this experience algorithm, which we haven't talked about yet. And that experience algorithm has a method that's called return goal experience points. And this returns an integer, and it takes our current level. So let's go ahead and look at what this experience algorithm is. In my case, I have a new script. It's called experience algorithm, and it has two classes in this script. The first one is a abstract class called experience algorithm, and this is needed. So if you create your own script called experience algorithm, make sure that the first class up top is the experience algorithm. It needs to match the name of the script, or Unity will throw a fit. But in this case, it's an abstract class, meaning we can't actually create an instance of this object. We need to create another class that defines what's happening in it. The only thing we can do, though, is create a abstract method, return type int, and it's called return goal experience points, and it takes an integer called current level. And this, because it's abstract, I don't have to define it in this class. We're going to define it down below. And so what I've done here is I've created a new class called linear algorithm, and it inherits the experience algorithm. So now we're going to implement what's abstract about this class down here. And I have a public read-only integer called linear amount, so 100. And I've gone ahead and done a public override. So if I'm now implementing this method called return goal experience points, it's going to return an integer. It's going to take our current level. And all I'm doing is saying my current level times the linear amount is going to be what is required to level up for the next time. All right, so linear amount is just 100 times our current level. This method is where you can get really crazy and customize it. You can do a cubic function. You can look at all your stats and come up with some crazy algorithm you want. As long as you return some integer here, it's going to work however you want. And you can create as many of these classes if you want. So you could say public class exponential algorithm and then define an exponential function down here to return the type integer that you want. Really up to you. I've just done the linear one to kind of show how it all works. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. But let's go back into our level controller. And again, at the top, I have a protected experience algorithm called experience algorithm. In my constructor here, I set it equal to the new linear algorithm. So by default, we're just going to increase our experience points linearly. And I do that. Again, that method gets called down here in the set goal experience points. So hopefully that makes sense. That's pretty much it, though. This is the bulk of the class to our level controller. This should allow for levels any way you want. I do have another constructor here. This is an override constructor. Allows you to pass in a starting level, a maximum level, starting experience points. So if you want to start the player at 100 experience points, you can do that. And you can also customize what experience algorithm is being passed in here with this constructor. And again, this is just an override of this first one. You can call either. If you call the second one, you need to pass in all these variables. If you call the first one, like we do in our tutorial script, here, I don't pass in anything. But I can call the other one and pass in those 4 variables. But again, that's it. So hopefully this makes sense. The other thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to jump into Unity and show you how I have set up the notification icon, just in case you're curious. So basically, when I press play and I hit level up, this notification comes up and then it disappears. It's really simple script. I have a notification game object that has, again, a title, a message, and an icon. And I created this script that I've attached to notification called deactivate. And real quick, all it does is on the enable function, I start a coroutine called turn off. In this coroutine, I wait 2 seconds and then I deactivate the game object. So if I go into tutorial on our level up, you see notification object.setActive is true. I turn the game object on. It then starts a coroutine, waits 2 seconds, and turns itself off. But that's it. That's the whole project. Let me know what you guys think of this new format. Please like and subscribe if you can. Share the video. It really helps out the channel. Otherwise, I'll talk to everybody later. Have a good day.